Hello to everybody. My name's Gabe Blanchette. I'm the head of product here at LeanLaw. Really excited about this webinar. We're going to give everyone just a few minutes to join. We're expecting quite a few more folks. Thank you for those of you who are prompt. Awesome. Oh yeah, people flooding in. Fantastic. Awesome. We'll get started in the actual contents of this webinar on invoicing in just a few minutes. We'll introduce ourselves as well more formally in a few minutes, but my name's Gabe, joined by Melissa. We both work on the product team here at LeanLaw, so all day we're thinking about how to help attorneys, law firms, and specifically operators and law firm administrators enjoy their work more. Be more effective, be more efficient often through the use of software, but often through better tips and tricks and processes. So this is what we're passionate about here at LeanLaw. Yeah, people are coming online by the. So we'll just wait a few minutes before getting started. If I could ask, as we just sort of wait for a few more folks to join, if folks could use the chat box here in Zoom to mention either what they're interested in, why did you join this webinar? What is out of the 5 components that we listed out, or just in general, what are you most curious or interested in learning about in this webinar? That can help. We can address those specifically, or make sure that we do. So please just use that chat. If you want to share where you're dialing in from, and we welcome that. We'd love to see that. And if you want to share what type of practice area or law firm you're with, we'd be curious to see that as well. Chat is currently disabled, it looks like. Let's see if we can turn that on. We can use it looks like if the chat is not enabled yet, go ahead and use the Q&A. Welcome you to use that. And Allison, maybe we can turn on Allison is the Zoom overlord here, and maybe can help turn on the webinar chat here. All right, we'll get started in 1 minute here. Let a few more people join. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm not seeing, probably due to us not having chat enabled, which Allison, if we're able to turn that on, let's turn that on, as well as the Q&A, so that folks can interact as Melissa and I give this webinar. Brad, I do see your test. Thank you in the Q&A. Thanks for doing that. Mark, I see you're from Houston, Texas. You're new to LeanLaw. Welcome to LeanLaw. Thank you for choosing to use LeanLaw, and we're really excited to have you. Trying to understand LeanLaw's full capabilities. Awesome. Happy to do that. Cindy, I see your test as well. So it looks like we're using the Q&A. Maybe the chat's not working, or we don't have it enabled. So please do ask questions through Q&A, etc. And let's go ahead and get started. So first, I'll introduce myself. Melissa will introduce herself, and then we'll kick this off. We're going to talk all about invoicing and perfecting your invoicing process for small and medium-sized law firms. So my name's Gabe Blanchette. I'm the head of product here at LeanLaw. I've created many products in my career to date, mostly software. Also, I did an indoor farming hardware product as right out of school. So I love creating great products, and great products anticipate the needs of their users. And so in this case, our users are small and medium-sized law firms. We have attorneys and timekeepers, of course, paralegals, everybody who's actually doing the legal services. Then we have operators and administrators, and then we have, mixed in, we have partners in managing attorneys, responsible attorneys. And so really understanding the needs of all of those types of users and building a great product over time is what gets me up every day. So that's me. Melissa?
Yeah, I'm Melissa Schaefers. I am an associate product manager at LeanLaw. You might recognize me from chat because I was in the support team before this, spent about a year there. Um, and for the last few months, I've been on the product team and am super excited to get to use all of the context that I have to build what makes, makes law firms run better. So I'm excited to be here today and talk about seamless invoicing.
I love working with Melissa on the product team because of her background and support. She's got such deep empathy for all of our customers' day-to-day lives, and specifically what they've needed support with in the past. So bringing that into the product team so we could develop proactive sort of features and functionality is why I love working with Melissa. Awesome. So let's go to the next slide here.
Yeah,
We've got five components of seamless invoicing that we've identified, and we're going to use this webinar to talk through these. Looks like our chat is enabled, by the way, so you don't have to use the Q&A to ask questions or chat. So please feel free to use that. Awesome. So we work with hundreds of mid-sized law firms. Who use LeanLaw day in and day out, month in and month out to get invoices out. We have generated over $1 billion, somewhere between $1 and $2 billion worth of invoice value, or our customers have using our platform. That's across all different types of practice areas. B2B, firms that are working for intellectual property or litigation with the largest, Fortune 500 companies, all the way to family law offices. A local family law office that's working with, wills, trust, estates, divorce, etc., and everything in between. So we've got a wide variety of practice areas, and our customers are in the USA, in Canada, and we do have a few more broadly international. In general, our customers love using LeanLaw. Those are attorneys and especially operators. Really love some of the bulk functionality, and we've really designed this for you. So just sharing that so that you understand where Melissa and LeanLaw are coming from when we develop opinions about what seamless invoicing looks like for mid-sized law firms. So we're going to talk through five things, and we're going to do it in the form of two main examples, which we think is going to be useful. So the first component here, eliminating extra tabs and apps. We are really focused on, QuickBooks is an amazing accounting tool, but attorneys are not in QuickBooks. Therefore, if you've got elements like sending an invoice email through QuickBooks specifically, your attorneys actually don't see that. There's other stuff we'll go through today, like adding expenses, hard costs, soft costs, etc. There's collaboration on actually getting that invoice PDF to reflect with the work that was actually done. We are obsessed with figuring out how do we create single platform collaboration, develop efficiencies with the folks who have to get this invoice and the invoice email, everything that this entails together. Number two, keeping everything in one place. So we're focused on creating an all-in-one sort of payments, trust request, full balance payment link solution where you can see, and we'll illustrate that. Number three, accelerating accounts receivable to paid. So, some of our firms are using trust accounts, retainers in really smart ways. Some, send invoices, wait to get paid on them. We have a flexible way of thinking, accommodating how different firms bill. But in general, the better collections tooling and process you have, the shorter your accounts receivable are, the shorter your cash cycle is, the more efficient your firm operates, the happier managing partners and owners and operators are. So we're really focused on that, especially coming up towards the end of the quarter here and the end of the fiscal year for most firms. Number four, understanding to the penny. So really understanding invoices and payments reporting. And so we'll talk about reconciliation reporting, and then trust your numbers in line with that, intuitive reconciliation and accounting. So making our lives easier on the back end once payments are actually received. Awesome. So let's go to, just a quick why focus on invoicing. Whether you use LeanLaw or not, there are better time tracking and billing softwares, than there were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. actually generating the data, from time entries, fixed fees, expenses, that type of context, as well as client matter creation, getting those into invoices is generally becoming easier. What we're thinking a lot about at LeanLaw is how do we enable better collaboration between timekeepers, operators? Things like how do we surface an audit trail so that exactly, when work in progress was submitted into your time tracking billing program, who modified it, where did different pieces go? So those are things that we're focused on. But one of the key takeaways that we want to drive home today, and we're going to show a lot of examples of this, is invoicing is often thought about as the PDF that's generated, or the for firms that do leads billing, or their clients take leads codes. Invoicing is often thought about that sort of end product. We think about invoicing more broadly. We think about invoicing as more than the PDF. So let's go to the next slide here. That means that great invoicing, in our way of thinking about this, means end-to-end alignment around the client and the firm financial relationship. And so what does that actually mean? That means that from engagement letter all the way through the end of a relationship, driving alignment through that is the undertone, or is the key component of great invoicing. That means that expectations are clear, communication is crisp, and you as an operator or an administrator get a lot less pushback or questions from your timekeepers, your attorneys, your responsible and managing partners, and from end clients, whether it's that large, Fortune 500 company department, or whether it's that, the father who's getting divorced, which is one of the examples we'll give here. And so next slide here. What we've seen is that, let's go back one slide, sorry. What we've seen is that alignment and communication ultimately build trust. And when we talk to the thousands of attorneys who are on LeanLaw, they say, ultimately, I'm trying to create a trusted relationship with my clients. That's true no matter what practice area, no matter what size law firm, no matter what size client. They want to create trusted relationships with their end client. So our question as a product team is, how can we facilitate trust? How can we better facilitate trusted relationships when you've got attorneys, when you've got operators, and you've got clients? Next slide. So here you've got the partner, the attorney, or the timekeeper. They need to, they want to build a better business, and they want to spend their hours practicing law instead of chasing payments, trying to update operators or clients on a certain matter. In the middle, you've got operators who, as we all know, have a crazy cycle at the beginning of every month, typically for those of us on the monthly billing cycle, who've got to get dozens, hundreds, or thousands of invoices out on behalf of all of the activity in their law firm. And they want better tools to make billing, to drive alignment, right? Is the work in progress actually reflective of what happened? Are there any write-downs? Is everything captured correctly? How are we expressing this to the client? Is a client expecting what we're about to send them? Operators need great tools to make that efficient at scale. And clients, they want transparency. They want great communication from their law firm. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, it doesn't matter what software you're using to adopt the concepts we're going to talk about, but because we're on the product team at LeanLaw, we're going to frame this in how LeanLaw does this, and how LeanLaw is increasingly, developing functionality to facilitate this alignment. So what we're calling this at LeanLaw is Lean Align. Lean Align is everything related to driving alignment between partners, between partners or attorneys rather, operators, and end clients. That's Lean Align. And it is the core element of a great invoicing process and workflow. Awesome. So the way we're going to talk about driving alignment and therefore great invoicing is through two main examples. So first, we've got a B2B situation, an intellectual property firm that's working on behalf of Quantum Synergetics. Quantum Synergetics, let's say that they're the details don't matter that much, but let's say that they're developing some new innovation in biotechnology. They're based in Boise, Idaho, and our firm is working on a fixed fee and hourly basis to help them develop their IP. So file a new patent. Melissa, do you want to talk to the next example?
Yeah, our next client we're going to be working with is John Smith. He is getting divorced. He has a couple daughters, and he's just having a rough go of it right now. Definitely not as excited as the biotech firm. So to get started, for the client onboarding, for working with a tech firm, as an IP firm, it's a little more complicated than just as a family lawyer. There are client billing guidelines to review and make sure that you're in line. A lot of big companies like this will have a vendor portal where you submit your invoices. There might be leads format or other guidelines that you have to follow to make sure that you get paid on time. And you'll usually want an engagement letter where you sort of agree that you've understood all of their guidelines and they're ready to work with you, and get that signed.
This is where we define great invoicing to start, is we're really with that engagement letter and the intake of the client billing guidelines. There's a few ways of a few acronyms related to client billing guidelines. We'll talk a little bit about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then for John Smith with a divorce case, it's just depending on your familiarity with your client. You might have an actual engagement letter, or you might just be working on a Word basis. But lots of law firms will send their engagement letter over email, and they might then collect the trust to get started if you work with trust accounting. In LeanLaw, we make it super easy to send that initial trust request and get it paid. So for John Smith, I could send him, maybe it's, I think, $5,000 we said.
Yep.
And set the deposit memo, his email if I need to CC anyone else, and if I need to change the language of the email that he'll get, I could say first trust deposit, and request those funds. He'll pretty quickly get an email with a link to pay that initial trust deposit. The really exciting thing about the way that we do trust requests is we make sure that money never hits your operating account. So you might have tried to use other payments providers to collect things like that, but struggled with only having one bank account that you could use. But we'll make sure that you can have your operating account and your trust account, and we take care of the accounting, so you don't have to worry about running into compliance issues.
Awesome. Great demo of trust, accepting trust right up front. Next slide here. So as part of Lean Aligned, we will be working a lot next year on helping you onboard clients, and specifically around getting those engagement letters to really spell out the terms of the financial relationship, in addition to the scope of work or the services being performed. And when you do that effectively, you really set expectations, whether you're working with John Smith in a divorce case, or you're working with Quantum Synergetics for a big IP, a large ongoing IP relationship. Setting those firms, getting that alignment up front is going to be a key area of focus for LeanLaw. So we don't have that much to show here on best practices with engagement letters. That is what we are studying right now. Any of you who think you do this well or want to talk about this, our product team, so myself, Melissa, and others, want to speak with you, want to interview you, so that we build the best engagement letter sort of workflow that maybe integrates with your existing tools, your existing document management, et cetera. Or replaces it, and so in the most collaborative way. We will be focused on this quite a bit next year. So just want to put that out there that that onboarding and engagement letters are going to be a key area of focus for us. So now let's move forward, assuming that we've reviewed client billing guidelines, we've gotten the engagement letter drafted and signed, so expectations are very clear between client and firm. Now let's move to just doing the work. The services are performed. We're not going to talk much about this, but one of the reasons that many people are adopting LeanLaw and softwares like it is because tracking time, expenses, fixed fees, whether it's on a mobile app, so iOS, Android, web app, a desktop tracker, we've got great tools to help attorneys actually capture, and paralegals and time trackers actually capture the work being performed. So for the purposes of this webinar, let's assume that we've done discovery interviews and drafted the patent application for quantum synergetics. And for John Smith, we've drafted perhaps an asset plan or the separation agreement from their partner. So the work has been performed.
Yeah. And once once all of that is ready to go, all of your work in progress, it'll be available if you're familiar with LeanLaw, you're familiar with this, but it'll be available in your Ready to Bill tab, and with the click of a button, you can draft your invoice. Once we actually have the invoices drafted, you can start doing the like any collaborative work that your firm might have for things like, oh, oops, I meant to write that time entry down, or can you give them a credit because XYZ deliverable might have been late. We have steps or folders in here for what you have drafted, and once it's ready to review, your responsible timekeeper, your partner, whoever takes on that role of final edits to the invoice can do that here before approving it and sending it to QuickBooks or sending it to the client. For the actual sending of the invoice, I know one of the things that I was surprised with when I first started at LeanLaw was how many emails like this operators have to field on a regular basis.
Melissa, could you zoom in
yeah.
or just read the text of the email? It's pretty small for me.
Oh yeah, sure. So for instance, for quantum synergetics, if they're billing with leads, they are gonna, our operator will need to upload the leads file to a leads portal, a vendor portal, and the quantum synergetics will then review it. Frequently, most of these businesses are also looking for expense attachments, which can be really difficult to wrangle. I've seen some complicated processes that people have to keep these straight, like with shared drives and things like that. But one of the things we're hoping to help with is creating the ability to actually attach these attachments when you record the hard cost, when you record the expense, so that when you're in ready to bill, when you're in draft, it's right there and ready to go, so that when you're sending your leads file, uploading your leads file, it's available in a zip file at the same time. So I'd like to show that.
So
it'll
this
look
is
like the
so Melissa, before you show the details here, this is all about single platform collaboration. Right now, previously in LeanLaw and in many programs, you had maybe a way for attorneys or timekeepers to record an expense, but then if there's actually an attachment, a receipt for that, whether it's PDF or JPEG or what JPEG image, they often had to go submit it to the operator or put it in some sort of OneDrive or document management system in a way that it was disconnected, maybe use file names or something like that to try to stay organized, but it might have been disconnected from the actual expense. And many of our firm operators then had to upload that attachment or that receipt to QuickBooks and maybe attach it to the expense there. So what Melissa's showing here is what we're currently working on will be released in the coming weeks or month or so to make this a much more single platform experience.
Yeah, so this is the draft view that you're familiar with. And your timekeepers will have already uploaded the receipts for the like filing fees, any like binding fees, anything like that. And you can review it right here. Make sure, yep, that's the right file. And it'll be ready to go whether you send it with a email or upload a leads file to a portal. That information will be here for you to review or exclude as needed. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know if we've looked at the Q&A for a.
Yeah, I've got the Q&A right here. Alicia is asking about notes. I assume you're talking, Alicia, about internal notes and how that works through the billing steps. Where do they go after billing? Can you confirm whether you're talking about internal notes, which is something we've introduced to time entries and have much broader plans for? Can you just, and I'll get back to this question.
Cool.
I want to point out what Melissa has on screen right here. So everybody who uses LeanLaw is used to, or all operators, I should say, should be familiar with what a draft invoice looks like. Before you submit it to QuickBooks, you're in this view that Melissa was just showing, where you can see the services provided, the expenses, et cetera, and this is a draft invoice. When we think about helping operators and firms in general align with their clients, it's really important that we think about not just the invoice PDF, but also how that's being delivered to clients. And so that means there's frequently in today's world, unless you're printing these and mailing them in which a few firms do, but the vast majority email these PDFs. I don't have the breakdown of how many upload leads files versus literally print these out and send them, but the vast majority email these. That's why we're really excited to introduce emailing through LeanLaw. And what this enables, whether you currently use Outlook or Gmail to sort of download the PDF and then send that way, or you use QuickBooks email delivery service, the reason why we believe that this is a better experience for your firm is that it all goes back to single platform collaboration. When the responsible attorney for a given matter is able to not just review the draft invoice, but also the email, and we're about to show you some awesome functionality there, they're able to think about in totality the message that we're sending to the client, whether it's on a monthly billing cadence or a different billing cadence. The message, again, is not just the invoice PDF. That has to be reflective of the services provided and the way that your firm and that responsible attorney wants to send those. But it's also the email, and that's where we think there's a lot of room for us to really build great tools for you to communicate better over email, not just in the PDF, communicate better with clients over email using all of the context that lives inside LeanLaw already.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, when we were building this functionality for like actually drafting the email for your client and using, like Gabe is talking about, all the context that exists already in your time entries, your expense descriptions, and client info to avoid situations like this. You send the email, the invoice either through mail or through email, and get a email back right away. What am I paying for? What is this? And have to kind of navigate that as the operator, or if you're a solo, firm, just yourself taking time out of taking time away from practicing law to get aligned with your client. What we like.
So Melissa,
Yeah.
So Melissa, this is a long email that not everybody should or wants to read, but this is what you're saying essentially is you send an invoice PDF, you send an invoice to a client, in this case, the divorce client, John Smith, and he or the client responds back with, hey, I need clarification. This is not aligned with my expectation, but either in the total amount or in some, I thought there was going to be more time written off or written down. I thought that, that this service wasn't part of the package are being provided. So just asking for clarification. That's what this email is showing.
Yeah, yeah, and we've spoken to a lot of law firms recently who spend a significant amount of time writing personalized emails for every client, like each billing cycle. And what we'd like to do is help like speed up that process without reducing the quality or leading to, the impression that you're not a team with your clients, which is ultimately what everyone wants. Um, so we'll have the ability, of course, to just use the template. If you're using LeanLaw already, you're familiar with the ability to set a firm template that auto-populates things like the client's first name, the balance, and the date due. And we are adding on to that using.
So,
oh, go ahead.
Melissa, let me just make sure that that's clear, because we see a bunch of folks in the audience here, some who are probably familiar with LeanLaw, some who are not. So LeanLaw, in the settings tab, there is a way to create a template for these emails, so as Melissa was referencing, this page gets filled in with that template, so you can move quite quickly if you don't want to, for some reason, personalize a specific email beyond what the template, the personalization that the template allows.
Yeah, and that's super useful, especially when you're working working with clients who know what to expect, and in situations where there's a really specific, like generalized cadence, like fixed fees for different steps in an immigration case, for instance. But in instances like with John Smith, who's getting divorced and having a really rough go of it, it makes sense to do a little more hand holding for him and explain, what was done, what the value of that work is, so like what those actual outcomes for him are, and offer things like payment plans. Because getting divorced is very expensive, as we all know. And so we're introducing this ability to auto draft a personalized email for your clients using AI. So we're pulling this information from the client notes, the last communication with the client, so the last email I sent in October, and the actual data on the time entry. So for instance, like initial consultation and case preparation, that corresponds to a couple time entries that are on the actual invoice. And the information, we know, I've told, like through client notes, I've told our software that this client is cost conscious, and might want something like a payment plan. So this email is a lot more personalized and personal, really, like for this client who's needing more context and a closer relationship. So
Yeah, fantastic overview, Melissa. And so here, sort of the how does this work? Again, this pulls from client notes. So each client in the client tab has a notes section, big open text field. If many firms already use that to track things about the client. If it's a personal relationship with a client, you track what the partner's name is, and they've got 2 dogs and they live in this town, and but especially in a B2B case, there may be reporting structures, there may be context on that department within a larger firm. There may be, who's actually going to receive this bill, what do they care about, and then soon we'll actually introduce the ability to have, this will happen next year, but client billing guidelines, influence how these are drafted. So we're essentially, using a lot of the context that you already have in LeanLaw to just accelerate how quickly you can build personalized communication. That's all part, again, of great invoicing, end-to-end financial alignment around the financial relationship.
yeah, and this is how that email is actually going to look from John Smith's perspective. Some of the information that we included that's super helpful and works to drive not just for your firm, but for your client, like knowing where you stand financially to the penny. We include this balance forward. I had a fixed fee last month for this client. The new charges, and I can pay either my invoice amount, which is just, 2,300, or my full balance. The other information that we include automatically is the trust activity. So remember, we sent that trust request earlier for $5,000, and the client paid it. So in some states, for some people, if you have a trust balance like this, you can apply it to your invoice right after you generate it, and the email would reflect that. And in other places, you need to send the invoice first and have some lead time for your client to object to anything before you can pay it from trust. So the emailing process is really smart and accounts for both of those situations to update this data as needed. For instance, if I were to pay this from trust, the actual payment link that I generate would account for that information. So you're not going to have a situation where John Smith is accidentally paying twice for the same invoice, once from trust and a second time himself with his card. So we make it possible to, pay with debit, credit, or a bank transfer, and this is totally configurable for your firm. So if you're only interested in accepting money through ACH, for example, we can help you get that set up. I think what we want to talk. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it'd be a great opportunity to talk about. So yeah, on this page, you've got the firm logo right up top. That's configurable. You can change whether, ACH versus debit, credit. And then can you talk a little bit about the possibility that we offer on surcharging?
Yeah, of course. So for firms that want it, we make it possible to surcharge on your credit card transactions. So instead of eating that cost yourself as a firm, you can ask your clients to pay it. So if they're paying with their credit card instead of ACH, they handle the 3% fee, and your firm isn't responsible for it. And we also help with that accounting. So that will be, we can talk a little bit more about that later. But this is the payment format, and the trust request looks very similar to this. So I think what we want to talk about now is the tracking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So when you send invoice emails through LeanLaw, we make it possible to track what's been sent. So we have this invoice that we just sent for John Smith, and I can see, you can see I sent this a couple times while I was getting this set up today. But I sent it to John. He's clicked on it. He hasn't paid it yet. If we record a payment in here, then this will show as paid. I think I might not have an example here. Yeah.
Melissa, you said record a payment. So just to make it clear, if John Smith receives this and pays via credit card, that's automatically reflected here, right? The payment is applied both here and in QuickBooks. If John just gets that email and decides to pay via, if he or Quantum Synergistics pays via bill.com or their own payment rails, what would that look like? And then if John Smith writes a check and mails it to your law firm, what would that look like?
Oh, totally. So yeah, if the client pays through that payment screen that we just showed, that payment is recorded in QuickBooks and associated with the right invoice automatically. So the invoice balance updates and it'll show as paid here, like you're used to for LeanLaw invoices. If, for instance, which you would in this case, pay this from trust, you would record that payment for that invoice. It will show up as paid here, and that will sync to the track sent invoices page as well. So now if we if John Smith opens that link again, it will show a $0 balance owing because we paid that invoice from trust. And all of those, if instead he calls you up and he's like, I'm gonna walk into your office and give you cash, you would just open the manage invoices page here and record a payment for that invoice, and that will sync to QuickBooks as well. So
And
everything
Melissa,
is,
what
yeah.
if John Smith wants to, calls the firm and says, I want to pay with a credit card or a debit card?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if he calls you up and has his debit card out, you can copy the payment link and paste it into your browser yourself and just enter his card number over the phone. And put in his email address so he gets a receipt.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of flexibility there. Going back to the track sent emails page, we're moving to, in the 5 components that we laid out for this, we're moving to accelerating the accounts receivable to paid cycle. And what's important here to note is that we've had several mid-sized firms tell us about the back and forth required when there's an account receivable or there's an outstanding invoice from a client. If the responsible attorney doesn't have access to QuickBooks or to the Outlook account or Gmail account, but often Outlook account of the operator, then the responsible attorney has no way of understanding, has the invoice even been sent? They may have to ask the operator that question. Do we know if the client, John Smith, has looked at that email? Did that email bounce? Have they not received it? Often an attorney would just call John Smith and say, hey, well, they'd probably say it in a very, thoughtful way, but essentially checking in, have you received that invoice? Are you pleased with the services provided? The track sent emails page is a good example of keeping everything in one place where it is accessible to those who should be able to see it. And so for a responsible attorney or managing partner, they should be able to see at a glance, where that invoice PDF or where that invoice email is. Has it been opened? Has it been clicked on? Has it been partially paid? Has it been paid? This gives them the access to be able to see that. And it also gives operators and administrators an easy way. Some attorneys aren't going to come look in here. They will still, just through habit, still ask you as an operator. Well, this gives you an easy way you've got filters up there to really quickly understand, what is this current status of this invoice or this invoice email. So we'll be continually, it is aligned with our mission to make for collections, whether you use trust accounting, whether you use payment plans, whether you use surcharging or not. We want to give you the flexibility to do all of that, and ultimately your end clients flexibility to pay sort of how they want, but ultimately make the information easy to reconcile, easy to understand, and accessible all in one place.
Yeah, I think the one thing I didn't cover is if you've gotten to, the end of whatever your billing cycle is and John Smith still hasn't paid, you can just send him a reminder using this page as well. So you could, I think we have a firm now who is just like sorting for unpaid at the end of the month and sending a reminder on anything that's outstanding, and you get the same tracking there, and they get the same payment link, so they have the same options to pay. Let's see.
Yeah, let's go all the way to Alicia's quote. I know Alicia, I actually see Alicia here as an attendee. This is Alicia Wood, one of our customers, an operator at a mid-sized firm who we really love working with. Alicia, thank you so much for not just being a great user and customer of LeanLaw, but really being a collaborator and helping us as a product team think about how to make this better for you, and therefore by extension for hundreds of other operators, thousands of other attorneys and ultimately for end clients, who receive invoices, emails, and communication from the law firms that choose to use LeanLaw. So thank you, Alicia, for everything you do for us, sincerely, and with us. Alicia, just highlighting this, she started using the reminders feature when we released it a few weeks ago, and that morning emailed us back and said about $15,000 of accounts receivable, was collected within moments of sending those emails. So just, we were really thrilled when we launched functionality, and it immediately impacts our customers. And here's a pretty good example. Awesome. I want to leave some time for Q&A here at the end. We want to leave some time. So let's go next slide, just to wrap up and saying, we have talked about, we've shown and we've talked about a fair amount of things. On a high level, we've talked about how invoices aren't just PDFs. Successful invoicing requires sort of end-to-end. Let's go back to those 5. Successful invoicing requires thinking about the financial relationship and driving alignment end to end. That starts with the engagement letter and it ends at the end of the, with a satisfied customer, whether it's a John Smith or a Quantum Synergistics, it ends at the, at the end of that relationship, when they're willing to refer you to other clients, when they're just thrilled with the relationship. That means building trust and alignment throughout that is what creates successful invoicing. It's not just about the PDF. How do you do that? Well, you eliminate extra tabs and apps. We showed a lot of functionality in LeanLaw today, and more important than the functionality in LeanLaw, the concepts that you want attorneys and operators, you want your timekeepers, operators to be able to access the right information at the right time. You don't want things siloed, and expense attachments are only in QuickBooks, so attorneys can't see them, or tracking sent emails is only in Outlook or was sent through QuickBooks, so people can't access that information. We're really focused on trying to eliminate those extra tabs and apps and keep everything in one place for better collaboration. We showed powerful collections tools for the firm. So Melissa did a great job showing that the tracks and emails. We've just released reminder emails. And we're not going to go into it today, but we've been doing a lot of work recently on reporting, both in the billing workflow itself and in the reports section of LeanLaw, to help you understand what is outstanding. How long has it been aging? Which clients owe you which amount of money? And be able to do that not just in table form, but in ways that are easier for you and your attorneys and timekeepers to digest and understand very quickly. We talked about, I just talked about the reporting section, number 4, and then number 5, trusting your numbers. So intuitive reconciliation and accounting. We didn't go into, and Melissa, feel free to expand on any details that operators and attorneys would want to know here around, around payments and then reconciliation. But the core of it is that we're trying to build, through our tight integration between LeanLaw and QuickBooks Online, and our payments provider, Gravity Legal, we're trying to build a lot of automation in place. But it's important, as we do a lot of this automation, to have auditability, the ability for you to really understand and see it, here are all the payments that have been made this month. Here are the deposits to our bank account, trust account and operating account, and really have the ability to understand payments, deposits, invoices, trust accounts, in very intuitive ways. Melissa, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah,
to that
just
point?
that, since LeanLaw uses QuickBooks as our source of truth, when we send a payment link, or send an invoice, the expectation is that any payments that are made from trust, from the client, or via cash, are going to be recorded in LeanLaw and then synced to QuickBooks. So the data that you're seeing in LeanLaw is really from QuickBooks. So you can handle the kind of back office, but interacting with your clients, component, the communication component, and have everything available right away in QuickBooks for your accountant, or maybe that's also you wearing multiple hats, to see what is available in trust, what deposits can we expect to come through the bank feed, and match up with the payments that we've made in a really easy way. That's one of the most important parts of this is making this yeah, like Gabe said, auditable and intuitive for firms to use.
Awesome. So we've talked about these 5 elements. To use LeanLaw, the only thing that's required to use a lot of the functionality here is a Gravity Legal payments account. And so on the next slide here, how to get started. It's all about learning about the functionality, which hopefully you've learned quite a bit here on this webinar. We're happy to do more personalized sort of content. We're producing more support articles, and our support team, that obviously through chat is a fantastic resource for all of our customers to learn about this functionality, ask questions, etc. To start, many of our customers are already sending, this is very much live. There's hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through here to clients from end clients. But if you're not yet using LeanLaw and the functionality here, you go to the settings tab, go to the Gravity Legal settings, and start your application there. You'll create a Gravity Legal account. You'll see a simple application that takes 3 to 4 days once you've submitted that application to get approved. And then you set up your emails. So that invoice email, that sort of default template, as well as that reminder email, those are right in your settings tab. And then you're ready to start using the functionality that we showed today. I will note we showed a few things that are in development and will be released over the coming weeks. We didn't show anything that should be released next year or further. We've got some exciting stuff coming out that's earlier on in our development process around engagement letters, around better reporting right in the product, around reconciliation, and even more intuitive and auditable ways to do that. So around showing the history of an invoice as it moves through those steps. So a lot of exciting stuff planned for next year for LeanLaw, but everything we showed today should be coming in over the course of Q4 here, or is already in the product. Much of it is of course available to customers right now. So please ask any questions of us for getting started to use LeanLaw. LeanLaw is free. It's included in your subscriptions. The payments through LeanLaw have very standard, 2.95% on credit cards and debit cards, and 1% on ACH transfers with a cap at $30. So if you have a large ACH, there is a cap on that. So those are we built this to be very cost competitive with other payments providers, and yeah, the LeanLaw is, other than that, is included in your subscription. So. We do have 7 minutes here. Let's go to the next slide here for just sort of end takeaways here, which are not seeing the slide advance.
Oh, it's
but essentially,
yeah,
there we go. Yeah, great invoicing isn't just a PDF. It's about financial alignment and building trust. LeanLaw is included free in your subscription. And then we're going to email you a form. Melissa, could you mention a bit about the form with the recording, which we'd love for you to fill out?
Yeah, so we'll just have we'll send a form out, and you can put in your email, what your current frustrations or pain points are with your invoicing, billing, collections process, and what you'd like what you're either what you saw here that was most exciting that you'd like to implement, or if there's something that we didn't cover, if you could snap your fingers and have something, we will look into making it happen. And if we can't, we still want to hear about it, because it's obviously invaluable to us to know what is happening and what's happening with individual law firms, and what you need to make a invoicing process really blissful and joyful. That's our end goal eventually. That's where we're I don't know, striving towards. I think we have
Absolutely.
a few questions.
So we've got 6 minutes left. We're turning to Q&A. And so please submit your questions here. Looks like we do have, we actually have a lot more than I thought. Hold on here. my view here was not great. Okay. Internal, so let's start with this one, which I sort of saw and delayed earlier around internal notes. Melissa, would you mind just pulling up a time entry that hopefully this is enabled in your demo firm here, but we'll show what an internal note is on a time entry. So Alicia, thank you for asking, can we see the notes and how that works through the billing steps? Where do they go after billing? So what Melissa has on screen right now is is the time entries page. And when a timekeeper creates a time entry, they have this section here called internal notes. So internal notes are notes that a timekeeper wants to express internally to an operator or to another timekeeper. Maybe a paralegal is writing an internal note about potential write down or inefficiencies. They're going to track a full hour, but they want to make a note on this one that really there were some inefficiencies in my hour, so it should be written down to maybe half an hour. Whatever that internal communication is, we are at a point now where we are allowing, we've built the functionality for timekeepers to be able to input that note. Alicia's question is, where do these internal notes go? There, we have, our product team has a plan. The plan is to start with the actual capture of these internal notes. When you see when you're an operator or an administrator in the billing tab and you see a time entry, you can go in and view that internal note. That is what's available right now. That is not the full vision of this functionality. The full vision is that those internal notes are expressed in ways in the billing workflow that are visible, more visible than they are now, and more collaborative. So you can actually start. So next year we have plans, and we don't know the date on this yet, so it won't be early next year, but we have mock-ups, plans, etc., to start allowing better internal collaboration, so that it's not just one internal note on a time entry, but rather on a draft invoice, you're able to see any internal notes from all the time entries, expenses, and fixed fees in one place. And you're able to actually start a comment thread on any of those or on the entire draft invoice itself. So that means that the vision we're pushing towards is that there's more single app collaboration between timekeepers and operators. And in many of our firms, there's not just one administrator or operator, there's several. And so being able to document, the sort of notes on a draft invoice or on any of the individual elements that make up a draft invoice is going to enable much more auditable and trackable communication about, what needs to happen, whether it's write downs, better communication, this attorney hasn't input their time yet. Those are the types of things that will eventually turn into sort of a comment stream on draft invoices. So hopefully that answers your question, Alicia. Candidly, we have firms that are already using this to great effect, but our vision for this far exceeds sort of what's in there now, or our plan for this, I should say, far exceeds what's in there now, in that we want to make this a lot more visible in the billing workflow. So Alicia, hopefully that answers your question. Diane, Diane asks, and this is for you, Melissa, if the expense receipt is already attached to the expense in QuickBooks, will it automatically flow to LeanLaw, or does it have to be attached again in LeanLaw?
Yeah, so that's where we're going. That's a great question. Where we're going with this is that if I enter something in QuickBooks and attach the receipt there, the receipt and the expense will flow into LeanLaw. Or, if you use something like Dext to create the expense, take a picture of the receipt, and that ends up in QuickBooks, that will sync over as expected to LeanLaw. And then I think we have another question from Todd. Are the pending attached expense receipt features only for leads billing or any and all clients billing? So yeah, this is going to be available for folks who are using LeanLaw's email service, which is just requires a Gravity Legal integration, Lean Align. So it'll, if you're using leads, it'll work. And if you're sending your invoices with the payment links like we showed, the expense attachments will be available as well.
Awesome. Shanley asked, this process requires Gravity Legal, correct? Shanley, the answer to that is yes. for to use the full extent of LeanLaw here. We'd love, if you have any questions about Gravity Legal, just be in touch with us at product@myleanlaw.com or support@myleanlaw.com, or just chat that bubble on the bottom of your web app, the LeanLaw web app. Brad asks, on the tracking sent invoices, can I set up a rule to auto remind about the invoice every 20 days?
Yeah,
Melissa?
so that's this is for our first iteration of reminders, we didn't include automation like every 20 days, once a week, at the end of the billing cycle. But that is something we're looking to implement in Q1. We're also doing some thinking about like bulk reminders for a client. So being able to send, maybe a client has 7 outstanding invoices and you want to send just one reminder email with just one payment link saying, hey, this is your full balance, just at a time. So those things will be, that's what we're doing some thinking on in tandem, and we want those to be available at the same time.
Melissa and I will stay on and answer the remaining questions, but I recognize that we are at the top of the hour. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for those of you who use LeanLaw. Thank you for using LeanLaw. For those of you who are considering it, if it's right for you, do it. We've got a product team in Melissa, myself, and others who are thinking about, how do we anticipate your needs and make your day-to-day and month-to-month easier and better. And so we want to collaborate with each and every one of you, and submit feature requests through our support team. We look at and process all of those. We take those super seriously. We can't respond to everyone, but we do take those super seriously, and we're committed to building a better and better application for you. So thank you again for joining this webinar. For those who want to hear the answers to a few more questions, Melissa and I will answer them. But again, thank you everybody for joining this webinar. Awesome. So let's keep. Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
I think we have if you're sticking around, we have another question from Brad. On tracks and invoices, is there a way to sort by dollar amounts? I don't see a column for the amount of the invoices there. There isn't currently. That's definitely an interesting idea, and I'd love to hear more about that. Like what specifically you would use that for? Because obviously we're planning an update to that page, so that would be, if it's something, if it's something certainly that we can't meet in another way, or that a lot of folks are interested in, we're definitely interested in that for sure.
Brad, we'd love to hear, as Melissa said, more color on that, but I just want to confirm with you that I'm adding that as a feature request or sort of an insight for our product team.
Yeah.
So please do add more context if you want, but we are tracking that. Great suggestion. Rich asks, is LeanLaw able to automatically generate an invoice for a past due balance without any work for the current month, without having to go through manually sending a reminder for those past due amounts? Okay, so Rich, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so automatically generate an invoice for a past due balance without any work. So not exactly. I think my question would be, does the past due balance, does that exist in the manage invoices page already? Because if it does, you could just resend that email, or resend it. If you didn't send it with an email previously, you can send it with an email for the first time, and it will retain the information that it's past due. And it won't have any work on the current month. So I'd definitely be interested. I'm not sure, Rich, if you're using LeanLaw already or not, but I don't know if he's still on with us, but I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about that, because I think there's definitely a way for us to resolve that.
So Rich, I do see that you're still on as an attendee here. So hi, and if you could email us potentially at product@myleanlaw.com, we'd love to speak with you for 15 minutes about what you're looking to do here, and what we currently have, we'll show you. And, if we need to build something, we'll absolutely consider that.
Gabe, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Rich, welcome.
I
Yes,
gave him power.
You gave
To
me
talk to you.
power. Thank
Yeah.
you.
you
Thank you.
did.
So here's,
Welcome, Rich.
thank you. I appreciate it. Here's really I'm a longtime LeanLaw user, one of your early ones. So I've been using it for a few years now. And one of the problems is that I will have a client who I don't do any work for during a specific month, and yet they will have a past due balance from the prior month. When I used to use time slips before I came over to LeanLaw, time slips would automatically generate a past due balance invoice that would be sent out for that past due balance, even though I hadn't billed anything for the month. LeanLaw does not do that. And I had a talk with Fred about this, I don't know, 2 years ago. And
Okay.
because I'm sure I'm not the only attorney who has this issue, where you're going to have balances due, but you're not going to have any work for that month. And yet you'd still like an invoice to go out for that balance due without having to go through filtering for your past due stuff and then having to send reminder emails out. So have you guys even considered that kind of functionality?
Yeah, so I think that I think if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like that would almost be resolved by like an automation with reminder emails. So saying, if something's been outstanding for 30 days or more, send a follow-up email with the subject line outstanding invoice, past due balance, something like that. Automatically. Is that kind of what you're thinking, or?
Yeah. Some way so that I, at the end of the month, do not have to look either in QuickBooks or in LeanLaw to see who hasn't paid last month. And yet there will automatically be a reminder sent out to them without me having to go through those machinations.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's something that that use case we're looking to resolve in like Q1 of this coming year with automations. And
Okay.
yeah, something in the subject line, or of course allowing firms to set their own subject line for what that past due reminder looks like. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for giving me a voice.
Awesome.
Rich, thank you for your longtime use of LeanLaw. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Gabe.
it, and thanks for the suggestion. I'm glad we're gonna sort of meet your need, I think, on this within the coming months.
Good, I hope so.
So thank you.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Brad, by the way, Brad, I don't know if everyone can see the Q&A. I don't know,
so.
but Brad is saying, Rich, thank you. Love your input here. So we've got one attendee thanking you, Rich. Brad, it's the same ability we have on managing invoices, just adding that over to tracking it. Yep.
For amounts. Yeah, for amount sorting. Yeah.
Yep. Alicia says, Alicia's responding to that client notes section with, I'd love to see a way to share with other timekeepers for multi-level approval. Okay, so that's for that's getting to the billing workflow, sort of invoice PDF generation, draft invoice, developing more collaboration features and approval, maybe more stringent approval sort of functionality, and assignment functionality within that. So Alicia, so eager to work with you and our other customers to improve the billing workflow. We're working on LeanLaw now, which includes elements of the billing workflow on the billing page, as we've shown today. But really thinking through, what you're talking about is something that we're talking about actively as a product team, doing some early user interface, so UX, user experience UX designs on. So we'll absolutely come to you for feedback on that. With that, you're welcome, Maria. Thank you for attending. I think we are all set.
Awesome.
I don't see any outstanding questions. So for those who still remain with us, thank you so much for sticking on 9 minutes late. And again, thank you for, be in touch through the form and through our emails. Thanks, everybody.